Welcome to Resilience, the podcast. This season, we'll be focusing on how people have turned their private prayers into public testimonies. Join us as we will embark on a journey where we will find the experiences of others aren't that different from our own, and how we can use those same stories to benefit our own lives and turn our private prayers into public testimonies.
So I'm sitting here today with Michael Reed, recent Harvard graduate, and also a phenomenal friend. I've known Michael for 10 years now. It hasn't always been that way, though, between you and I.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't always been as close as we are now.
Yeah.
A lot of that was ego. We know that now. What are your thoughts pertaining to ego, and how do you deal with that in your everyday life?
I think ego is a powerful tool when used correctly. But I think that there's a very delicate balance. I think there's very few examples of people we could look at that have expertly used ego the right way always.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
If you think about, of course, the term in itself, egotistic, isn't the best.
It's not, no.
It's never a positive connotation. But a lot of times when we're talking about somebody's egotistic, on average, I would assume, it's mostly successful people that we're talking about, right?
That's true.
We're not talking about Joe Schmo being egotistic.
Right.
That never really typically happens that often. Or if he is, and it's you ignore him, right? We call him delusional.
Right.
If Joe Schmo was egotistical, we call him delusional, right? When you're successful and you're confident, you exude it in the way, and maybe you're not very mindful of how you're making people feel, that's when you become egotistic, right? But I think at its root, what it all comes down to is just confidence in yourself, confidence in your ability, confidence in what you can do in the world. And sometimes if you're not conscious of how you are expressing that, it can definitely come off the wrong way. And that's what ego becomes, right?
Right.
But I also think the reason why I say it's a good tool is because we know how even how the brain works. You get into a certain rut, you start becoming unconfident, you start becoming insecure.
Yeah.
It becomes so difficult to even do anything, right?
That's true.
Getting out of bed becomes a very difficult thing if you are not confident enough, if you do not feel good, if you're not in the right mental space, right?
That's right.
So I think that's one of the things where it's when used correctly, ego and just having belief in yourself could be one of the best tools, but it's very difficult to gain that confidence in self, but not go too far, right? But even when we talk about ego, the first thing I think about is Kanye, right? Immediately think about Kanye. Maybe it's because of the song "It Got a Big Ego" with Kanye remix. Maybe that's why I'm thinking about it. Yeah. But I think that he's a great example of it, where it's to see where he came from, to see the background that he had. There was no reason to believe he could have been successful in music to begin with. I'm talking back in the day, right? I'm talking about when he's first becoming a producer in Chicago, and Chicago was not an emerging place for hip hop.
Oh, so
right?
In the early 2000s, late 90s.
Very early, right? So the fact that he had his ego is the reason why he became the producer that he was. When he was a producer, people saying you're only going to be a producer. The ego is what led people to say, okay, cool, you could be an artist, right? Because he believed in himself, he pushed it, he manifested it in that way. However, we also know that his ego also led him to call himself a god, right?
Okay, now we're getting to something.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's when I think the ego goes too far, right? When ego goes too far, you start becoming a god, you build up the god complex, he realizes he isn't God, and then all of a sudden, his life is ruined, right?
Okay.
Boom, loses all of that. We start to see that your perception of him and maybe some of the successes he has starts to crumble a bit, right?
Yeah.
And I think those are that's the exact example I'm talking about, right? Where it's again, when used correctly, ego could be an amazing thing, but I think that for the most part, it's never used correctly.
So that's interesting because you talked about, we just had this conversation I think earlier today, how when we were in high school, you had a lot more ego than you do now.
Absolutely.
You find it hard right now to entertain that aspect
Absolutely.
of your life. But back then you felt you were a little bit more in tune with it. Do you feel that you went too far back then? Because just for reference, you were in Lincoln Limited. We were both in Lincoln Limited Scholarship. That is a scholarship organization in Chicago which awards students off merit to go to any private high school pretty much in the Chicagoland area, and it pairs you up with mentors to pay half of your tuition. So you were president of that council. You were president of Carmel student body. and I were interns at McDonald's Corporation. You had a lot going for you in these high school years. It was easy to build an ego and to feed off of that. Do you feel like you went too far then? And do you feel like, as if you did, what crumbled for you?
I think that I never got too far because I think that my ego got crushed before I could go too far.
And how did it get crushed? What was the culprit?
I mean, the reality is, like, the reason why I had the ego to begin with is because it was necessary.
Why was it necessary?
Coming from Chicago, we're on the South Side, the land of, like, no opportunity, more or less. There's not examples walking around that I could look at and be like, hey, I'm going to be like Jimmy for the rest of my life. Right? And if you do, as you say that, you see all the other parts of his life that you're like, I don't know if I really want that.
Yeah, I don't know if I want Jimmy's life. Yeah.
You know? And especially given the fact that, like, I had parents who were immigrants, and in their minds, the best place that they could land to get to was Chicago.
And they were immigrants from Jamaica.
From Jamaica. And they happened to come to an area that at the moment wasn't the worst. Eventually became a lot different. And I grew up in the thick of it, right? I think one of the things that I knew was, like, I had to literally have the confidence and the wherewithal to believe that I could be beyond, I could be better, I could be more. That was super necessary for the success that I have today. Like, we wouldn't be in this room. We wouldn't be in this condo. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now if I didn't have that belief, right? I wouldn't have been in link with you if I didn't have that belief. Wouldn't have went to Markham. Wouldn't have even thought about running for student councils, right? We're talking about all the successes that all came from me having the belief to be like, oh, I need to go do that. Like, that's me. Like, hey, somebody's like, kids are making clothing lines like around the same exact age, and people are making businesses at 15 in the teenage years. Like, why not me?
And that was something that you did. You designed a clothing line at 15.
Yeah.
Called Submerged Reality.
Yeah. But before even touching on Submerged Reality, I do want to really address this ego point, right? And whether or not I went too far, right? Because the thing about the ego point, again, I think that, like, it did bring me a lot of benefits, and it got me a lot of confidence enough to, like, pursue a lot of these options and goals and dreams. But we even know on a more personal level the impact that also had on people around me.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. Right?
That's true.
We can. There's a lot of people we can point to that have had a huge positive benefit in their life just by me literally having that ego and that confidence to be like, not only am I going to do something, but we're all going to go do something.
Yeah.
Right? For the most part, my entire mindset was, I'm doing this, but I'm also going to tell you what I'm doing. If you're a close friend of mine, you know what I was doing.
Exactly.
I wasn't hiding anything. I gave everybody the sauce. As I found out things in real time, I would tell everybody else. We started doing volunteerism, right? Like, let's have clothing jobs, let's have food jobs. We need to, like, make an impact, right? Like, as I was finding out about things, everybody was, like, learning about it, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of people who got positive benefits. Also, a lot of people got negative, right? I know for a fact that there's a lot of people who did not feel confident in themselves because I was by them, right? Like, how could you be? My personality was the type that I would stand up on a table and I would scream and I would say, I'm the one, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Like, that was me back then, right?
Yeah.
Again, that's what I felt like I had to do.
And why did you feel like you had to be so heard, so seen? Because that all fits into the ego, right? Do you feel like that wasn't something, do you feel like that was something that you lacked?
I think that, like, I've always been heard and seen, but I think that it was always, like, I saw the benefits from doing that, right? I want to be remembered. I want to have legacy. Like, I want Michael Reed to mean something.
Yeah.
Right? At that time, I didn't care if it was positive or negative. Now I care way more about it being positive, right?
Yeah.
I'm very conscious of, like, I've had a lot of accomplishments up until this point. But if I die tomorrow, what are you remembering? That's something I'm super hypersensitive to right now. I wasn't back then.
Yeah, making that dash count is, yeah.
That's something I'm super conscious of now, right? But even speaking about, like, at what point did the ego stop, I think that for me, like, it's one thing to be egotistical about very specific things that people around you aren't pursuing, right? I cared a lot about grades, my grades, and blah, 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 blah. Nobody really cared about their grades that much around me.
Right.
So it's easy for me to be egotistical about my grades because I'm like, yeah, I got the best grades. You don't, right? Blah, blah, blah. You can put the clothing line on there. You can put whatever other accomplishment that you want to say I had on that, right? Mm-hmm. You go to a place like Harvard after that, that's going to go out the window.
Yeah.
No matter who you are. And that was the biggest thing we had to all learn at Harvard. Right? No matter who you thought you were, no matter how successful you thought you were, no matter who you thought you were supposed to become, somebody else is even better than you at that same thing. They thought about it differently. They've accomplished more. There's so many different things, right? You can't walk around Harvard feeling like you're the best.
That's true.
And if you are, you're literally crazy. You're literally delusional.
So what kind of people did you meet at Harvard, and how did that change your perception of the world, right? Because like you said, you were coming from places where you were a top exceller, right? You were the top achiever. You were, we at Lincoln Unlimited at their office here in Chicago on 22nd and State Street, there's a picture of Michael Reed in the front of their office. So we're talking about someone who's used to having high achievement, right? How did that change for you when you went to Harvard and you were surrounded by so many people, celebrities alike, presidents' daughters? How did that change your perception of the world at that point and your identity, if at all?
Yeah, I think that what's weird about going to Harvard is that it kind of validates you, but at the same exact time makes you question yourself. And I think that even when we're talking a lot about some of the things earlier, about even like what I learned in business and what submerged reality did for me, things of that nature, when it gave me that confidence and gave me that wherewithal to be like, man, I actually did this, look who I am. In a very odd way, you would think Harvard would have done that for me. And in a lot of ways, it actually did the opposite. Where like, I think that for a decent portion of the time, I was like, man, I can't believe I got here. Look what I did. I got myself here. Man, like, I must be somebody because I'm here. So quickly it turned into being like, how am I here? I don't belong here. Look what they're talking about. Wait, he went to what summer program? Where did you vacation when you were growing up? Who's your dad? And like these types of things would like, instead of motivating me and validate me like how they would have in the past, it actually like made me feel very invalidated, if not insecure. And many times I had to really truly figure out like, who is Mike? How do I weigh up in the same room? Right?
And why did you feel like you had to ask yourself those questions in a sense to, I guess, match up to them, right? Why did you feel that insecurity in a sense?
I think it really comes down to the fact that, like, for the most part, I was always getting success because I was comparing myself to people around me. I would get motivated by them. I would get motivated to achieve more than them. Very competitive, right? You know that. And I think that spirit is what got me to Harvard to begin with. And I thought that was going to get me success once I got to Harvard. However, it got to a point very fast where I realized I can't compete with certain people on certain things. I can't compete on academics.
That's true.
That was what I had to learn when I got to Harvard. I got to Harvard and I realized school isn't going to be my thing. Academics will not be me. Like, I won't be the 4.0 student at Harvard. Like, that's not what my career is going to be.
And was that an of an acceptance for you? Did you struggle with accepting that at first, or was it something that you was like, okay, I can do this, and
Didn't struggle. I think that I accepted that very easily. The thing that was hard was figuring out, well, what am I then? Who am I going to be? What are people going to know me as? And I think that very early on, I just decided, like, look, at the end of the day, I came here because I want to get a job. I want to do business. I want to be a businessman. I want to run my own company. And so at the end of the day, I want to be seen as that. That's what I want to excel in. And that was kind of like my revelation, even literally within the first weeks of me being on campus. Where it's so funny, literally you would talk to people who knew me from freshman year on my first weeks and first days. As people are picking classes, I was notorious for saying I don't care about school.
Really?
Notorious for saying that. I don't care about my classes.
And this is at Harvard?
This is at Harvard. Class is not my number one priority. Academics is not my number one priority. Extracurriculars were my number one priority before that. How
are you perceived then by these elitists, right, quote unquote, who went to Harvard? How are you perceived by saying, oh, academics is not for me? And you have to remember, what we look like too, So how did that come across?
We know how I was received.
Yeah,
we know. We know.
Yeah.
I seem crazy, right? Like I seem like an idiot. I seem super uneducated.
Well, I was talking more skin color, but
but I mean, again, all those things in combination. Well, I guess right? Like, look at this guy. I've never seen somebody like him. I never met somebody like him to begin with, and he's also saying something I've never heard before.
Yeah.
you don't. Your first assumption isn't going to be like, oh, Mike Reed is somebody special because of that.
Right.
You're going to be like, oh, this kid doesn't know anything.
He's special, all right?
Exactly. No, exactly, for real.
Yeah.
And I think that I had to accept that. And I think very early on, again, my motivation was just like, look, I want to run businesses. I want to do that. That's my thing. I want to be known as that. That's what I want to do.
So it's this whole idea of being plugged in, of being connected to the outside world, right? Of utilizing the people that you've met, to all grow together in a sense, right?
Correct.
For a higher purpose. But let's kind of talk about what my goal is, right? In terms of highlighting this story. So you've had, a lot of successes, right? Which is what we talked about, but you've also had a lot of struggles too, which aren't so much at the forefront of our successes at a lot of times.
Yeah.
When we think about some of the things that you struggle with, right? So you have come from a immigrant family, two parents who immigrated from Jamaica, and you have your family still there, your grandmother is still there. You went through a very traumatizing event when you were 17.
Multiple.
Yeah, multiple events, but this one in particular involved a fight where
a robbery
where you
attempted robbery.
Yes, where you feared for your life, where a gun was drawn on you, and I mean, for better words, you feared that was going to be the last time that you saw anything else. How did that then turn into something where it was a experience that built you, that made you someone stronger than you are, that led you to then go into a private prayer, to be able to turn that into a public testimony, to what we'd be able to talk about now, to what you're doing with Bain and Consulting, the company that you work for, where you're able to give outreach now to these communities that need it. How did that result in that huge, accomplishment for you? Something as traumatic as that.
I think that the benefit that I do have and what I could take advantage of right now is giving you this false impression that I went through being robbed or attempted to be robbed, almost got killed, got embarrassed, traumatized, and I came out of it like motivated to do better.
Right.
I did not. It didn't motivate me to do all these things. It wasn't like, it didn't lead to my success.
No,
not at all. If anything, it motivated me knowing I need to get out of this area. I need to leave. I feel like a victim.
But it motivated you to get out.
Sure. Not even get out, right? Because that's not I was motivated to leave, but that's never the answer. The thing that was really traumatizing, in addition to what happened, was afterwards, somebody who was super close to me, their explicit comment about the situation was, "I'm happy that I don't have to live here and deal with this stuff. Too bad that you have to."
Oh, wow.
And so that's what running away is, right? I looked at that and I'm like, that's not the solution, me running away.
Right.
I don't want to be a victim, right? To feel like a victim, to have somebody be taking stuff away from you, to put you in a position in which you have nothing to do back for it, I hate that feeling, man. I hate that feeling. Like, that's the worst feeling in the world. And it can be felt in a lot of different ways, right? It can be felt at work, where you feel like your manager has too much control of your life, and they make you feel like you have nothing to really say or do, blah, 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 whatever it may be. But in my situation, it was very explicit where somebody was like holding the fact that they could take away my life over me just to get my phone, just to get my money, whereas I had no money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, there is no rosy conclusion I can give you from it. And I'll be not honest to you or myself right now if I was trying to give you one.
So then let's talk a little bit more about your role at Bain & Consulting. That's a very, prestigious consulting firm for those who don't know. Michael has been able to, move up in the ranks, and now he's working with a project where he is impacting communities to give them essentially hope for a better future.
Yes.
Given what you went through, can you say that there are people that have experienced the same things that are benefiting then from what you're doing? Do you know?
That's the hope.
Do you see what I'm getting to?
I do. And just to help you out, because I know it's difficult to talk around things.
Yeah,
right?
And it's traumatic for you. And I don't want to, trigger too much more.
I'm untriggerable. It's
fine.
Okay. I'm fine, man. Uh-huh. I'm fine. You might awaken the beast, but
yeah. Yeah, okay. And then now we talk with another person.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm currently able to do in my job as of now, and even taking a step back, this is generally what I'm trying to do with my life, is leverage whatever resources I have at the given moment to always make life better for other people. I just so happen to be straight from Chicago, and I've played in the hood, and I've been around different places like that, right? So I have like this affinity for helping out minority communities get opportunities and get out of those situations, or just change their perceptions, or just change the situations that they're in as much as possible. Mm-hmm. I've been grateful enough through my job, through the friends that I have, through different things I've learned, to be able to do that for people. I've been able to help underprivileged kids like start getting into certain high schools, right? And like that's something I'm pursuing the next couple of years, is like specifically helping out this one guy get into college. Right?
And this one guy is, just so everybody has reference, with Link Unlimited. And Link Unlimited, as you might have realized, was a program that we were both a part of, Michael and I, but Michael has now decided to give back and has now assumed a mentee now, and so he is helping sponsor his high school career with whatever private high school he's at, and he's also giving him life advice, helping him make influential decisions that will help him be the best that he can be. So
yeah, and I think that again, that's just like a blessing, right? Like it's just one of those things. It was like utilizing resources, right? For him in particular, Zachary knows that I may have a bit of money here and there, so maybe I could take him out to some dinners. Maybe I could help subsidize parts of his education. But the main resource I have is like exposure and education, right? And that's the conversation that we were having, is like, what you need to view me as is you're like personal consultant, right? Like you want to go to XYZ school, tell me what school that is, tell me what you want to go study when you get there, and we'll figure out the plan to get there, right? Exactly. And again, it all goes back to just the general idea of, I think that robbery, those experiences are just like a snapshot of the type of stuff that we dealt with growing up, which generally motivated me to like have a different type of life. But as I was receiving successes, all my successes don't matter if other people can't get benefit from it.
But I like what you said there. So you were able to acknowledge then what the robbery did for you. So while it might not have instantly, been something that turned out positive for you, it did kind of shape who you are today. It did shape
that and a lot of things, right? I mean, bro, we went through so much stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, for better or for worse, like I was the type, I was always trying to be out of some stuff. Like I saw some stuff going on, I would go run to it. Yeah. Right? And that was me at the time, for better or for worse. Right? So I spent a lot of times in neighborhoods that I shouldn't be in, hanging out with people I shouldn't be hanging out with, doing stuff I shouldn't be doing, just in general, right? That put me in a lot of positions that like molded and shaped and like changed how I felt about the world, right? Mm-hmm. But more than anything else, the conclusion of always just like, again, back to what I'm saying, like if I made the difference only in my life and nobody else's, none of this really matters.
That's true. Again,
like we're sitting inside of a great condo. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for these views. I'm happy to be in one of the richest like neighborhoods in all of Chicago. Yeah. That's cool. Hmm. But that's it. It's cool.
Yeah.
Right? That's it.
How am I touching other people to help them achieve the same things, to help them achieve the same aesthetic?
Can Zachary do the same exact thing?
Exactly.
Right? Can he do the same exact thing? Mm-hmm. Right? Or if not, hey, you know what? People that I grew up with, am I able to help them come here too? Right? People I went to school with, right? Harvard can be seen as privileged as it is, but these kids still need to get jobs. Can I help them get a job at my prestigious consulting firm that is very hard to get into?
Yeah.
Like that's how I think, that's how I operate. And if that doesn't happen, then I'm not successful. Then it's not something to be happy about. And I'm not happy with, and I don't feel satisfied with.
So it's this modern concept of, if, we're not all eating, I'm not eating correctly, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Yeah. And I think that there's danger in that mindset because I think that we come from one of the only communities that puts that on the people who are successful.
This is true.
Like you get successful and you're not successful unless everybody else is successful, which like other communities do not do the same at all. They don't. Right? And none of it really matters for me unless I can at least do something to help somebody else out.
Michael, what's your deepest fear?
Not being enough.
Interesting. And not being enough for you or not being enough? What does that encompass?
You're asking the right question. Not being enough for me, for you, for Nzari, for my family, for people that I love and care about, right? And if we even get into insecurities and things I'm struggling with now, it's like I feel like that's what I'm doing now. I feel like I'm not enough now. Right? Mm-hmm. How many times have you texted me that maybe I didn't respond that fast?
Yeah.
Let's be real. Right? That bothers me. That truly bothers me, bro. Like, I don't think that that's cool. That's not a sign of my success, the fact that I'm, like, inaccessible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the fact that, like, certain people I care about a lot don't see me. That's not cool. Right? And that's not being enough for certain people. And sometimes people, like, what is enough? It depends on the person. But at the end of the day, like, that's literally what I fear the most, bro. Like, I leave this earth and people always refer to me as the guy who wasn't enough. Or thought about me as having potential, but I didn't really hit it. Or thought about what I could have been and I never really became it.
I think that's interesting because a lot of us deal with the same thoughts, and I don't necessarily want to call it negative self-talk because we should always look for more enlightenment, more achievement in a sense. But we do also think that we're not enough. We always should be striving for more, like the Prince song says, when doves cry, you know, my mom's never satisfied and stuff like that. You know, it is common, you know, like people never feel like they're fed enough. So I don't think that you should feel any type of loss there, but I do think that you should feel pride though for what you have accomplished, you know, because it is huge and it is mind-blowing that someone that's only 23 is impacting people way beyond his age and way past that. You know, you're impacting teenagers, you're in things that are instrumental, I think, in telling who you are, right? And telling about your spirit. And so, what's your favorite quote?
You can never be overdressed or overeducated. Oscar Wilde.
You can never be overdressed or overeducated.
Correct.
And what does that mean to you?
For me, it's like more of a metaphor and a signal for like not holding yourself back, not dumbing yourself down, right? Like, I think there's a lot of times when we, as people, say like, we did enough. Like, you don't have to do all that. Don't be that guy, right? Like, how many times at school did people make fun of me because I was doing too much?
Yeah. You
know what I mean? I never felt that way. Like, there's no way for me to do too much, especially when I'm doing the right thing. You know? Yeah. And I think that that's like the mindset that we all need to get into. And I mean, I'll admit, like, I think for a lot of times, like, I've even strayed away from myself, right? I love being underdressed. And I love, like, not having to be educated these days. Yeah. But that's not a good thing. Yeah. So I'm trying to get back into that. But I think that is, again, one of my favorite quotes. Like, my sister bought me a suit as I graduated from Harvard as a gift, and that's what I got stitched on the inside of it.
Really?
Yeah. Inside of the jacket. Never overdressed, overeducated.
Well, Michael, I think that, you know, I asked that after the deepest fear question because I wanted you to see the correlation, right? Of how you think that, you know, you don't think you're enough, but then, no, you don't want to be overdressed, but overeducated. And I think that you could find a similarity there, and I'll leave that for you to kind of ruminate on because that's, it can become a paradox in a sense, right? Because you have your deepest fear, but then you have a favorite quote that you identify with. And I think kind of analyzing those two will definitely make you feel that what I am doing in this present moment is enough because I can only be in this present moment, right? I can only live for now. I can't look for the future. I can't live for tomorrow. I can't live for the past, but I can live now. What I'm doing now is enough. So, Michael, I thank you so much for inviting me over. I thank you for, as you said, the views are amazing. Currently on a rainy night, but we're drinking Capriccio watermelon flavor. I've never actually had it. So, cheers. Thank you.
Cheers to you as well, brother. Yeah. Again, man, I'm just blessed to be here, and again, I truly thank you for this opportunity. And I think for me, this means so much in a lot of different ways, right? Specifically to see you and how much you've grown, and to see that this is something that you're now pursuing.
Thank you.
It's just one of the best things that I could even see. It makes me emotional to even think about.
Wow.
to be in the midst of greatness already is one of the things I obsess about doing. So I'm just happy to even have this interaction, just to have this moment to look back on. And aside from that, honest to God, I see this as being like the spark that I needed to go in the right direction.
Wow.
Right?
That's powerful.
And I think that for the most part, we've even had this idea, and I think generally people see that there's like some type of benefit I could bring to the world, but I can't do it unless I have the scale, and I can't do it unless I have the mediums that are like right for me.
Yes.
I think this is the perfect medium for me.
I think so too.
I think it scales my ideas way more than just being in this room and us having a conversation.
Yes.
Which like typically that's where some of this stuff stops.
That's right.
Right? And I think that again, I'm looking forward to the benefits that come from this. And again, it's gonna be one of those things I get obsessed with again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As we're talking about, as you accomplish things, the success that comes with the high feels, what you then do next.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just excited to see where this goes for me in the future and how I'm gonna be able to look back and always thank you for this.
Well, I thank you, because everything we do, sometimes we don't see the immediate effect, but I agree, this is just a step, toward the peak for where we're going to get to, right? It's just a stepping stone that's going to help, transform our vision and just elevate, and what we're trying to do in this life. So, Michael, thank you so much again.
Of course, bro.